I believe that if we let children suffer, if we let them experience negative conditions, then when they become adults, they will visit that upon us, the people that stood by and allowed it. So one of the things that I extol is that, and I believe in, is that we have to create conditions where they don't suffer, don't have to fear on their way to school, don't have to fear while they're in school, and don't have to fear on their way home from school and at their homes. Once that fear is removed, they can be open to new messages of positivity and education, all kinds of positive things. But if we let people suffer and then expect them to get good grades, that's not appropriate psychologically. So we have to create an environment that's free of violence and malevolence in order for them to prosper and to evolve.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mr. Blue. I'm the Vice President of the Detroit 300 Community Action Team. Our mission is to educate neighborhoods, community associations, block clubs, and people in the community how to eradicate crime from their neighborhood. Our focus is being eyes and ears for law enforcement. We basically will go out and pursue and try to find justice for people that have been victimized, whether it's through murder, drive-bys, mayhem, rape. The people that we're most concerned with and where we draw our line is women, children, and the elderly. These are the people that we focus on trying to protect and making sure that they're protected in the community. To answer the question, I agree with the captains. It's a multifaceted sort of situation. One of the things that would assist us is if we, in the communities, in the neighborhoods, were more educated about what actually is community policing and the different aspects of community policing. One thing that we need to focus on is community-oriented policing. Community-oriented policing involves not only the church in your neighborhood, the clergy, the business owners, the block clubs. Everybody has to be involved and understand that that community, that area, that village, everybody's responsible for it. A lot of the loitering that we have that ends up in crime, that's a lot of times the nucleus of a lot of crimes, is because people are loitering in certain areas. So in your neighborhoods, in your block clubs, every business is accountable to that block. If they want to make money on your block, they need to be part of the community. They need to work with you. And I encourage everyone to go out, talk to the businesses in your neighborhood, find out what the problems are, address these issues, and see what they're going to do to be compliant. If they're non-compliant, that's when you get with your community liaison officer or your neighborhood liaison officer. Potatoes. A lot of us don't know what a potato is, but in most neighborhoods, that's a loose cigarette. A loose cigarette is pretty much a federal crime. It's attached to their liquor license. It's attached to their gas pump. These little things that you can do, you can get rid of some of the negative impact on our youth. When our youth is hanging out and seeing the gas stations and the liquor stores violating federal laws, and city ordinances, they feel that they have a reason that they can stand there. Because if you don't tell on me, I won't tell on you.
Your company, sir, sorry, I forgot your name. If I didn't come here today, I would not have known about your organization. Where do we find out about things that are happening in our community? Are you guys walking the streets? Is there information being passed around at churches? Secondly, we can talk about the kids need rec centers, which they do. A lot of reasons why kids are crazy, or we have these, this energy. We have nowhere to put it. You know what I'm saying? Sports, music, things are being taken away from us and being placed in other cities, whereas Detroit, Michigan, which is supposed to be Motown, it's just, it's destitute. So my question is, what can we do? Do we have the funds to even create rec centers before we say what we need? Can it even be done?
I'd like to respond real quick that rec centers are great, like everything else. Basketball courts, we have to have a safe one. Without the safety, it ruins everything. All the investment, all of the good nature, all of the love that is necessary to make the change is destroyed by simply putting emphasis on something other than safety first. And once we have safe environments, everything will flourish. Basketball courts will be fun, everything.
Yeah. So our rec department is controlled by someone by the name of Miss Mentor, right? How many of us are familiar with Miss Mentor? So we all know that there's a great struggle within the city of Detroit on us investing into these rec centers, that we don't have the money. But I would tell you this: we can create the rec center. We can. The community can. Yusuf on his block, his house is the rec center. The rec center is created by us as a community. And so where can you find us at so we can work on this together? I would love to give you guys my email, my Facebook page, and we can tag team the effort. So I would love to give that out in response to that question of how do we do this? We can talk about this and we can do this. So my Facebook page is Team Strength Detroit, and that's my email too at Gmail. teamstrengthdetroit@gmail.com. And I got a cell phone number too. It's 313-757-1162. And if we want to have a serious conversation and we want to take action to put in a rec center in our community, we can get together and we can do that. That's the contact information for me, and I'll work with you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Broden, and I live in the Bagley community. And 6 Mile is what they call, even the merchants and the store owners, is a hot spot. So my question is, if the neighborhood knows, they're aware of it, the store owners know, they're aware of it, what do you do? Because recently, my son was going to work. He's a 19-year-old, and he became a victim. He stopped at the gas station. He had what they call a mini motorcycle. And as he left, a car bumped the bike, and then the van proceeded to run a piece of the bike over, dragged him down the street, and then they stole the bike. This was at 8 o'clock in the morning. Also in that same neighborhood, the seniors are afraid to go to the stores. I walk to the store, they say, be careful. Well, I am. I also talk to the young kids as I'm walking down there because those kids belong to somebody. And I ask them what their name is. And if they tell me, they're okay. If they don't tell me, I say, well, I'm watching you like you're watching me. But the seniors in my neighborhood shouldn't be scared to walk to the store. I shouldn't either. And my son should have never became a victim. So the question is, if we know that area is a hot spot, just like they're taking the Ford Focus, my neighbor had one stolen 2 weeks ago. They break the back window and push it down. What do we do, and where do we start to protect the neighborhood, and how do you do that?
Focus on prevention methods. And so as opposed to focusing on prosecution of those who commit crimes, focus on making it more difficult for people to feel psychologically that this area is open for criminal activity. And the way to do that is, and there's no easy way, and it's not cheap, it's you sacrificing yourself. You have to get out there, you have to put skin in the game, and there is no shortcut. You have to go and physically put yourself at risk for your community. And that's what I've done for 20 years, and it works. You just go out there like you did and say, I'm looking at you, and you're physically putting yourself at risk, and that's what it takes, you know, and it is dangerous, but guess what? It does make a difference. What you did is a good thing.
There is no easy solution, but communication is the first step. Ma'am, you mentioned Bagley and 6 Mile. Those are separate areas. With that, just for example, that you're using, that it's a known hotspot. Well, communicate to your precinct your concern, and that, you know, your neighbor. That's the idea behind the neighborhood police officer. They can hear what those concerns are. If it's an emerging trend that we haven't become aware of through our data-driven policing, we can work together to do something about that problem.
Detroit 300 Community Action Team, we go into the hot spots all the time. These men and women that you see over there put their life on the line day and night constantly for little or no pay. But in educating neighborhoods, community block clubs, if you guys want to walk, if you want to secure that area, if you have people that are willing, we'll walk with you day or night. So we take volunteers all the time. It's a volunteer organization. Anybody from anywhere in the city, we'll do any hotspot. We'll work with any block club, whether it's education through lecture, seminar, or getting out there and putting boots on the ground.
Great. That
Next
brought
question.
up an issue related to that I just have to address. I don't know if anybody here happen to know the late Bridget Vance from LISC/Focus Hope. On the same issue, there have been a lot of very productive crime walks that have happened in various precincts. That's a very good way to bridge the community with the police, and an additional component under LISC and Vanguard that we did when I was at Central, and that, where's Andre Signer at? I'll put Andre on the spot, he was here earlier, that we're planning to get back going in number 10 is, there's a component they also add with returning citizens. So in that circumstance, you had a very unique mix of people that were very interested in taking care of their community. You had the police, particularly the neighborhood police officers, and you had returning citizens reacclimating themselves to the community that they came from. It's a very, very wonderful, three-faceted thing, and that's something that Andre and I are looking at doing in number 10.
My name is Carlton Stanton, and first of all, I'd like to thank the police officers for the job that you do in this city, and we really respect you. I'd like to thank the police officers for what they do in the city, and you do a great job of that. On the agenda, it speaks about prevention, and I'd like to address that issue of prevention. As I listen to the conversations, I keep hearing the word youth, and it seems that this word youth is synonymous with crime. And it's almost as though when you reach a certain age, you stop committing crimes, or you don't commit crimes. So it appears to me that crime, say if you look at a certain age, is up to a certain age to some extent, if you understand what I'm saying here. So when it comes down to prevention, it seems to me that if we address it at the level of prevention, and that's back to someone who mentioned about the educational system. So quickly, the gentleman that had the passion about employment, I think that is the key. I'd like to thank CouncilMember Sheffield for reaching out to the community. She's working with me on a project that deals with young people, and it deals with giving them jobs. I believe there was a question that said, the question was, what is the root of crime? And I think that it has a lot to do with poverty. So if we can get these young people employed, I think that we can serve ourselves and prevent some of this crime. So I don't really have a question. I just like to thank you. I'd like to thank the council person. And I believe that prevention has to do with employment, and we got to get these kids working.
I think what we're not taking a look at is that a lot of the young people that are out in the streets and committing crime don't have relationships that will foster the growth out of that area of crime. So when we walk past our young people in the streets, or we don't greet them when we see them in the store, we act as though we're intimidated, we're missing the opportunity to create a relationship, to establish a connection, and show love for somebody who might otherwise not be getting it, right? And so I want to tell you that it's coming from a perspective of someone who spent 10 years in prison myself, from 16 to 26. And before that time, I didn't have a lot of connections with people in my community. And so when I walked the streets, because at home it was chaos inside, when I went out into the streets, it was my opportunity to connect with someone in a way that would get out that anger. You see what I'm saying? And so if someone would have connected with me in a way of compassion, love, and understanding, then that might have deterred, that might have redirected my focus away from the guns and the gang banging and the different things that led me into a life of crime. And so what my point is this, is that when we're talking about preventing crime and we're connecting this to the youth, let's also remember that youth are in stages of development. And so that means that it's our opportunity as adults, as people who have gone through these phases, to connect and nurture them out of that dangerous area. So, you know, the point is that we need to connect and make love to our youth. We need to love them. We need to create relationships with them, and we don't have to worry about those issues of crime in our communities.
Young people, and we keep them as the scapegoats. They only are imitating what adults are doing. And in reality, we keep talking about selling drugs and crime, that's a job for them. Until we expand their social makeup of how they see themselves, that's what the hell they gonna do. And we cannot blame ourselves. We have foundations that's creating this situation. They're putting their money in this neighborhood. They're putting this money in this neighborhood, but they ain't putting their money in Zone 8. They ain't putting their money over here in Dexter and Linwood. So the neighborhoods are like dried up lakes. People turning on each other out of survival. So we have to get back in the communities and build our communities up if we want to change this.
Next question.
My name is C.L. Johnston, 54 years, full-time pastor in the southern suburbs. 3 years ago, God moved into the middle of Detroit. We live on Longfellow, between 14th and 12th. this last week, and this gentleman, I love what you guys said. In fact, I already love you. And I have a wife sitting here, so that's not weird. Last week, I heard a noise outside my house, a ruckus. I opened the door, and there was an older man. I say older, he's probably 30 years my junior, but he was an older man. And two young men were beating him up, shoving him to the ground, kicking him, hitting him in the face, beating him bad. I didn't have time to call the police. I couldn't watch that. I walked out. I said, boys, what are you doing? And so they decided to come to me. And I guess I was a fool in some people's eyes, but I looked at the young man as he approached me. He said, give me money. I said, young man, will you shake my hand? I love you. He turned and ran. He got out in the middle of the street. I said, young man, wait, I will not hurt you. Look at this old guy. I will not hurt you, young man. Come back. I really know the compassion that we got to have for these young men. I see a man with a little boy holding his hand. I weep. And I'll stop him and I'll say, sir, don't ever turn that little boy's hand loose. Our young boys, our men, young men need a father. I don't know what kind of father I can be to them, but I'll sure love on them. And my wife and I spend our days and our life loving on these young men. And we will not allow them to go bad if there's anything we can do to help. So if you have any advice for me, that's my desire. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't even ask a question. But I love you.
Anybody want to speak to that?
What you did was you changed the relationship because you approached them and you were positive. That's also what they were not expecting psychologically, and that also made them want to go. They didn't know how to respond to that. And the fact that you were interfering, you know, they had a plan to just dominate one person. All that was good that you stepped forward. You also were positive. And see, it doesn't take a gun to solve an issue. Killing those boys would not have been a solving of the issue. You know, so stepping forward was great. And that's, if we get more people to do that more proactively and still be positive, it'll not lead to collateral negative issues like court dates, injuries and deaths, but simultaneously we'll deny the opportunity for the violence to occur. So great job on that.
I have a question and a comment. My name is Monica Cross-Williams. I'm here on behalf of my cohort, Kendall Kundelman, for Nextdoor.com. Actually, the question is, do you believe that one way that neighbors can facilitate keeping down crime in their neighborhood is to connect virtually? And just real quick about Nextdoor, Nextdoor.com has been on the ground in Detroit since February of basically this year. We have over 200 communities and might as well say literally over 50,000 Detroiters that are connecting online in order to keep down crime, connect about neighborhood activities, also community relations activities, and just to get to know their neighbors better. So I just wanted to ask that question real quick and see what your thoughts is about that.
I mean, it depends on what community. The Boston district community, hell yeah, they probably could use it. Zone 8, no. We ain't got no internet in Zone 8. Many people don't own computers over there. I mean, these are some harsh realities that we have to look at. So that's why we have to get back and engage in our community. There's things, I mean, there's plenty of stories I can tell you of how things I've stopped. Not because I'm Yusef Shakur, but because I live in that neighborhood. You know, we about to do a backpack giveaway back our 7th year doing in Zone 8. The young guys stopped gangbanging. They stopped selling dope. We're providing what peace looks like. We have to stop talking about these things and provide these things in a practical way. It's not going to be solved overnight, but also, you know, a lot of us talking about like helping youth, helping adults. Who going to help the parents? You know, we want to keep excluding them out of it. It's a whole holistic approach. Not saying that the internet is not real and can't help, but we have to keep in mind there's some folks that can't afford phones. So we have to take every approach and engage in our community. And the first approach is by engaging folks where they are at.
I just want to jump in. I want to say I half agree with that. Certainly we have to take a holistic approach. You know, a program like Nextdoor that uses phone technology, it's almost like sending text. When I was at the 6th Precinct, we worked with the community there, and anyone knows Coach Mohammed, you know, everyone in that neighborhood would text each other when they saw something. Sometimes those texts would come to us to be able to alert us to kind of like a virtual CB patrol. One of the problems that I see that we have, and Detective Fallon, I don't know if he's going to talk about this in his presentation at all, but you know, back in the day, we used to sit on the porch, and we used to have porch lights on. We used to talk to our neighbors. I would cut my neighbor's grass. That kind of stuff is gone. People stay inside. They're playing video games. There's nobody outside anymore. So we have to come up with new ideas. Next door, for example, is a fantastic idea to fill a void. Granted, I agree we need a holistic approach, and there's other things that we have to do. But in the meantime, that's not a bad thing. It's free. You know, you sign up, it's secured with the neighborhood that you live in, so it's proprietary to you. The texting that you can get with some of your block clubs. I'm sure that there's block clubs all over the place that have, you know, some type of texting set up. When I worked in the Eastern District, we set up a email account that you could email if you saw something related to B&Es. It was going to our B&E task force. So while I understand that not everyone has this kind of technology, but those that have it, please use it because the resources are free. Just like crimemapping.com, it's a free resource. Doesn't cost anybody anything.
Okay. You want to make one more quick comment?
Yes.
Then we're going to end up the
Yes,
panel and move on with our special presentation from Detective Faust.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the only potential downside,
Gotcha.
and we've seen this in some communities, is that when using text or online chains or even next neighbor, you have to know what your next door, you have to know what you're reporting. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of incidents where the information that has gone out hasn't been specific enough, which has put people in danger living in that community. For example, you can't, you know, say an African-American male ages 17 to 35 or 40 with a hoodie on. I mean, so there in certain communities like Grandmont Rosedale, Boston Edison, there have been situations where there has to be additional training about what you actually report on that online platform. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you. You want to make one more comment?
Yes, I'd like to say that one of the things we like to use as a scapegoat is economics. If you grew up in the suburbs, if you're familiar with the suburbs, there's lots of crime out there. When kids steal cars in the suburbs, it's called youthful exuberance or joyriding. In Detroit, it's a felony. Just being in the car. So you get your first felony just riding in a car. My point is to remember that there's poor people that would never steal, never take anything they don't own from anyone or a handout. And there's rich people that will steal everything you own. And they have very good college degrees. So my point is Enron was a real company that stole billions. So for us to say that if I went to high school or I went to college, I wouldn't steal is disrespectful to people who may not be at a top echelon of socioeconomic status, and also blankets and gives a cover to people who went to college to say, listen, you went to college, so you're a good person. If that was true, that education was the key, then no college campus would need a police force. But every college campus has one for a reason, because they do crimes there, including mass killings, which they've never done at any single Detroit or Chicago or New York school, inner city school, no mass shootings. But at colleges, apparently there's a direct correlation, higher education, higher level of violence. So we really need to stay away from that and just realize that if we create a psychological condition for violence, that's what perpetuates it, not any other dynamic. So if you look at our most heinous crimes, you'll find they have two parents in the home. Don't blame single moms. Just look at your history. Look at the actual proof, not our feelings. Go do your own research. Look at FBI.com website. They'll give you all the status on all the information you need. So it'll help you make good decisions.
Thank you, and thank you all of you all for being with us today. Let's give them a round of applause for our panelists for today. And each one of the panelists, they do have tables here, so they have resources and more information. If you have additional questions for our panelists, they all have tables here for you all as well. All right, that's the end of everything that we have here for you all, and I just want to personally thank you all for coming out. Once again, I am Councilmember Sheffield, and it has truly been an honor and privilege to serve you all. It's been about 6 months now. I'm at my six-month mark, and I've learned so much. It's been an honor and privilege serving you all. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to serve you and represent you all. I want to continue to bring resources to the community so that you all can have whatever you need to make Detroit safer, cleaner, and more competitive. I want to recognize my wonderful staff who worked so hard to put this together. Alfonso Horton, Paris Blessman, who just moved back to the city of Detroit from California, who's now back in the city working for us, well, for me. Mr. Barry Blackwell, who is my assistant, who does all my scheduling. A lot of you probably have already reached out to him. Shanika Owens is my senior policy analyst. She just got accepted into Wayne's State Law School for a full ride. So we want to recognize and congratulate her. Brian White, who is my chief of staff. A lot of you may remember Brian, too. He's very involved in the community. He also ran for office the same election that I ran as well. Kareem Holman, who is my community guy. A lot of you all should know him, too. And then DeAndre Watson, who just joined us not too long ago. DeAndre Calvert. Mine is gone. Who does some community as well. So I just want to introduce my staff. They've been a great help. And once again, thank all of you all. Please make sure you sign up for our newsletter. We do a monthly newsletter blast that updates you all on everything that's going on in City Hall, and then also update you on our next Conversations with the Councilwoman, which is held every single month. All right? Thank you all for coming out. I hope you enjoyed yourself and be safe when you're driving home.